What's up, everyone? Alex Quin here, and you're listening to Hustle Inspires Hustle. On today's episode, we're going to break down what happened with Super Bowl 2026 advertising. Specifically, how artificial intelligence showed up during the commercials, using reporting from Adweek by Trishla Ostwal. Because the Super Bowl isn't just entertainment or sports. It's where brands spend the most money to send the clearest signal possible about what they think matters next. So how big was AI this year in the Super Bowl? Let's start with the numbers, because the numbers set the tone. According to Adweek, 23% of Super Bowl 2026 commercials featured AI. That's 15 out of 65 ads, based on data from iSpot. When nearly 1 out of every 4 ads mentions the same category, that tells us AI isn't being tested anymore. It's being normalized. And once something becomes normal, the marketing challenge changes. So if AI is now everywhere during the Super Bowl, the next question becomes, who is actually advertising it? The Adweek article points out 2 very different groups of advertisers. One side, you had AI companies like OpenAI and Anthropic marketing AI tools directly to consumers. On the other hand, you had consumer brands using AI as part of how the ad was made or positioned. And that difference leads to a much bigger issue, because advertising something and explaining something are not the same thing, which brings us to awareness versus usage. According to data cited in Adweek, 73% of survey respondents reported using ChatGPT, compared to 41% for Google's Gemini and 7% for Claude, based on an S&P Global 2025 survey. At the same time, eMarketer estimates that about 30% of internet users will use ChatGPT in 2026, growing to 35% by 2029. So even with this massive awareness, usage still grows in stages. And that gap matters when you're advertising on one of the biggest stages in the world, the Super Bowl. Because if not everyone fully understands the product yet, how people react becomes more important than how people see it. The Adweek article references iSpot audience surveys that tracked how viewers reacted to the Super Bowl commercials. They measured things like likability, purchase intent, and emotional response. At that level of spend, reach is expected. Reaction is the variable though, which leads to one final question. When multiple brands are saying similar things, how does the audience decide what actually sticks? Without interpretation, the data shows a clear pattern. AI was everywhere. Multiple brands entered the same conversation, and many of them were trying to establish legitimacy at the same time. When that happens, clarity becomes the advantage. This quick episode was based on Super Bowl 2026 advertising data reported by Adweek, written by Trishla Ostwal with measurement from iSpot, eMarketer, and S&P Global. The value of this data isn't in the opinions, it's in the questions it forces everyone to ask themselves, specifically marketers. With that being said, what do you think about AI? That's it, y'all. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Hustle Inspires Hustle. If this episode helped you think more clearly about marketing at scale, subscribe and share the show. See you on the next episode. And don't forget that you can support our podcast by visiting our shop at hustleinspireshustle.com/shop.